Hi, I'm Dale Strickler with AgSpire, and it's National Pollinator Week. So guess what we're going to talk about? That's right, we're going to talk about pollinators. Perhaps the most iconic pollinator of all in the U.S. is the monarch butterfly. When I was a kid, monarch butterflies were everywhere, but now they're in trouble. According to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the monarch is now considered endangered. The population of western monarchs is less than half of what scientists think it needs to be in order for the species to continue. Monarchs aren't the only pollinator in danger either. Bumblebee populations have dropped 89% over the past 2 decades in the United States. Bumblebees have gone functionally extinct in 8 states in the United States. And that spells trouble not just for the bumblebee, but for the plants that depend on the bumblebee. Like, for example, the red clover you see the bumblebee feeding on in this picture. Red clover requires bumblebees for pollination. No other insect does a good job pollinating red clover. So when the bumblebees go away, the red clover goes away. Many insect populations are imperiled. While a world with fewer bugs might seem like a better one, the reality is that insects play a vital role in every single ecosystem on Earth. And you might ask, why should I care? I said, I'm not a butterfly, I'm not a bee. The reality is 1/3 of every bite of food that humans take in on this planet depends on insect pollinators, and 75% of all flowering plants on this planet depend on pollinators. Without pollinators, our world begins to collapse. So given that cheerful news, what can we do in the agriculture industry to restore pollinators? Well, one of the first things we can do is we can increase plant diversity across our agroecosystems. One of the aspects of modern agriculture is that a very high percentage of our landscape is taken up by large expanses of monoculture crops. And when you have a big block of a monoculture, you might get insects in that monoculture, but almost all those insects are of a very few species, and almost all of those species are species we don't want, the species that eat our crops, things like corn borers, corn rootworms, soybean aphids, and so on. So just to illustrate how dependent we've become on monocultures, in the United States, there's about 450 million acres of cropland. Of those 450 million acres of cropland, about 90 million of it is corn, about 90 million acres of soybeans. We have about 35 million acres of tall fescue pastures, about 28 million acres of Bermuda grass pastures, and we have about 35 million acres, believe it or not, of lawns. And almost all of these acres are monocultures that are maintained by herbicides for the purpose of eliminating weeds, many of which are flowering species that insects depend upon for survival. So how do we go about diversifying our agricultural landscape but still grow the crops we've come to depend on? One way is by including cover crops into our crop rotations. Cover crops are beneficial not just for pollinating insects, but also for multiple benefits, like controlling soil erosion, like increasing soil organic matter and carbon sequestration, which in turn increases soil water holding capacity. And another benefit, which is becoming increasingly important, is if you include a legume like the red flowered crimson clover you see in this photo, if you include a legume in your cover crop mix, it can fix nitrogen and reduce your dependence on purchased nitrogen fertilizer, which helps your bottom line. And if you include more species that flower, You can maintain bloom for a longer period of time, which attracts more species of pollinating insects and attract them for a longer period of time. Another way of attracting pollinating insects is by having companion crops in the growing crops. Now, cover crops are used in between crops, but companion crops are used during the growth of the crop. What you see here in this photo is corn being grown with a companion crop of white clover. Sometimes this is called a living mulch. The clover has been suppressed in the strips you see to minimize competition against the corn. So corn yields like normal here, but the benefits of this system are that the clover prevents soil erosion, increases soil organic matter, suppresses weeds, and fixes nitrogen for the corn, all while it provides flowers for pollinating insects. Another concept to add biodiversity to our croplands is the concept of insectory strips. Now, insectory strips are little narrow strips planted at regular intervals throughout a crop field for the purpose of raising up beneficial insects that are going to eventually disperse and give benefit to the crop around it. One example of insectory strips that I've been involved in my career is taking care of sugarcane aphids, which are one of the most devastating insects that affect sorghum in the United States. The yellow flowers that you see in the strip here, this is a blend of plants designed to build up populations of ladybugs and lacewings that are going to go out and prey upon the sugarcane aphid when it migrates in. And farmers who have used this approach have been very successful at eliminating the need for really expensive insecticide applications in their sorghum. Another means of adding plant diversity to our agricultural landscape is in our pastures. A lot of our pastures are monoculture grasses maintained by herbicide applications to eliminate weeds. But we can add flowering plants like the chicory, which is the blue flowers in this photo, and the red clover, which obviously is the pink flowers in the photo, to increase pasture productivity. Adding legumes and forbs to our grass pastures not only increases production, as you can see to the left of the orange line here, the diverse mix is a lot more productive than the monoculture fescue to the right. Not only does it increase production, it also increases nutritional value because these plants are higher in protein and higher in minerals than monoculture grasses. You can see from this research study, adding even a single species of legume to a pasture in this study increased productivity as much as 4-fold over monoculture grass. And if you're going to try to benefit pollinating insects, you can include in your pastures a few species specifically for their benefit. We started talking about the monarchs. The green, yellow, black, and white striped caterpillar you see in this photo here is feeding upon its only larval food plant, which is the milkweed. So if you include a few milkweeds in a pasture seeding, it really doesn't hurt the productivity of your pasture at all, but it greatly increases the value of that pasture for monarch butterflies. So to summarize here, there are many ways we can manage our farms and ranches to help pollinators, even beyond the practices we've mentioned in this video. At AgSpire, we work with farmers and ranchers, agricultural companies, and other industry partners to find the best ways to build resilience and improve sustainability through regenerative agriculture. If you'd like to learn more about what you can do to help pollinators, or how AgSpire can help you achieve your sustainability goals, send us an email at info@agspire.com. This has been Dale Strickler with AgSpire. Thank you for watching.